Well, a lot happened in 2025. And as we turn the page to the new calendar year, we're going to look back on some of the biggest events from 2025 that had financial impacts on us. We're going to talk about them a little bit from Ryan's perspective, get his view on, what mattered, what we learned from these different lessons of 2025, and also maybe a look forward to 2026. Stay tuned. Welcome in. This is Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you once again as we talk about 2025. Ryan, hard to believe we are now starting the new year in 2026. So happy New Year to you. But man, a lot happened in 2025, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you go back and look at timelines of things and all the different events and headlines and just some good news, some bad news, some nonsense. But yeah, it's a lot of happened. And when you kind of take a step back and take a look, again, hindsight's always 2020, but kind of reflecting and seeing all the different things that happen and how we, as humans, with our emotions, how we react to these things, can really determine, what you do from a financial standpoint moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to dive into. We got five, kind of big major headlines. I think any of these things, had they happened in a year, would be maybe the headline number one. But each of these things happened over the course of 12 months. So let's start with tariffs. Beginning back in April, I guess Liberation Day is what it was coined. But we saw tariffs kind of dominating the conversation throughout the year, Ryan. I think there'd be kind of just these spurts where, okay, tariffs are top of the news, top of the headlines. Trump's all about them. Things are about to take effect. Then we see kind of things extend a little bit in terms of deadlines, and the market, of course, reacted up and down from this. So what was your big takeaway from all the tariffs? Because again, I don't think this is over with even going into 2026.
No, throughout the year, we eventually saw some of the price ramifications from that. But in the beginning, from a market, because a market perspective has the knee-jerk reaction to it. So when we hear these headlines that these tariffs are going to be put in place, what did the market do? I mean, if you look at a line graph of what happened in 2025, I mean, from about March through about May, give or take, not an exact science there, but give or take, I mean, you see the line graph goes straight down. And then as headlines, maybe we got used to them, they got stale, or, hey, we're going to pull these back. We got a 90-day, reprieve on these things. And then you see the emotions of it shooting back up. So this is where staying the course, but also taking a look at opportunities. I know a lot of these tariff things are not going to be long-term. Some of them go away just with a simple announcement. So you just never know when these things are going to happen. And I remember distinctly, and I can't remember what headline it was, but I remember working, and all of a sudden I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Like the markets were up like 3% in one day. And it was just because of Trump said a headline like, yeah, we're not going to do those anymore. Or maybe we're going to put a reprieve on those. And it's like, goodness gracious. So again, that's where you can't make decisions, long-term decisions based on headline news. You just can't do it. Again, that's where the planning takes place. That's where you have to stay focused and stay the course. I think, again, I'm biased, but I think having an advisor, whether it's us or somebody else, talking people off the ledge of doing something drastic just because of a headline of a tariff, that's not going to change your long-term goals. There's always going to be short-term stuff and headlines that are out there. So, but yeah, taking a look, and if you went back and look at the opportunities that maybe you seized from the volatility, you really probably benefited from some of these headlines from a market perspective.
Yeah, and look, whether it's going to be tariffs again in 2026 or whatever news, right? It's all about preparing yourself so you don't have to react to these big headlines that are going to happen, because you can replace tariffs with any number of things, and you're going to maybe see the same exact thing. We know the market's going to go up and down, but you want to make sure you are invested in a way that doesn't have you worried about that. I think that's a big kind of takeaway from 2025. Mm-hmm. Now, another big thing, Ryan, is inflation. Again, kind of persisted. Now, things are better than they were 3-4 years ago, but I think we go to the grocery store, we still feel that every single day. So when I look at this from maybe a retiree standpoint, how do you approach this with people that you're working with in terms of just working on, spending adjustments, withdrawal rates, all these things that are impacted by inflation?
Yeah, I mean, this could be maybe just a future show topic just on this number right here. So it's in my mind, I'm like, God, where do I even begin with this? And I think to myself, here's one little anecdotal story. Over the Thanksgiving break, we were up in Asheville at my sister-in-law's house, and my daughter went to the movies with her two cousins, and they're older. One's a senior in high school, one's in college. Well, she has a green light card, so I put money on there so to buy her movie ticket or whatever. And she goes, and I get it. It is more expensive inside the theater because they got you. All the food and drink. But it was almost, I think it was $30 later. I'm like, what in the world did you buy, sweetheart? And she's like, oh, I got a box of candy, which she didn't need. Box of candy, popcorn, and a Coke. $30.
$30. Wow.
$30. And I'm like, I feel like this crotchety old man that I'm complaining about, but it is 100% true. Like like I am more and more conscious of it. So when you have those huge spikes of inflation that we had a few years ago, where it was 7, 8, 9%, yeah, like you said, Ben, it's slowed down and it's at a reasonable amount, but that's still stacking on top. We haven't had deflation. We've had huge amounts of inflation the last few years. And even if it's I think it's just over 2%, it's like 2.2 or 2.3, something like that. Don't quote me on that, but that's around what the inflation rate is. But again, you're stacking that on top of previous years that were almost double digits in there. So it is still a problem, and especially for retirees who are taking income out. They don't have that earning potential anymore. So they're taking that money out. So this withdrawal rate thing that you talk about, again, the old adage was 4%. Now they're saying just under 5%. And so it's got to be planned out. You have to have a plan. Again, that's the reoccurring theme of our show is plan. But sometimes these withdrawal rates are much, much higher, or people are having to be more conscious of what they're spending, because it is a real thing that the inflation just continues to go up. Like you said, food prices, that's outside of their mortgage, that's people's number one line item is food. Because the grocery store continues to get more and more expensive. I mean, it's crazy how much it is. But yeah, we just continue to see these things continue to escalate, and it can be a problem, especially for retirees.
Yeah, I remember when I was growing up, and I'd go visit my grandparents. My grandfather would give me a $20 bill on the way out, and I'd fill up my gas tank. I'd go get lunch the next day. Like it lasted a long time. So to think that $30 just gets you a few snacks to the movie theater now is just crazy to think about. But it's where we are.
Yeah, that's where we are.
All right, here's another one from 2025. I know when you talk about saving and cash, high yield savings accounts stayed pretty strong, right? Even though inflation has crept down some, this number, the interest rate has pulled back a little bit, but I think you can still find these accounts, the 3.5%, even close to 4% range for many of them. So that's still strong and a great option for many people. So looking back on this, Ryan, how do these high yield savings accounts fit into the cash, the broader cash and that income strategy that you're working with for retirees?
Yeah, because like you said, these accounts are 100% pegged to interest rates. So if interest rates keep creeping down, then these accounts are going to keep creeping down. And we've seen that. I mean, we've seen some money market funds that we use at Schwab. At one point, they were over 5%. They're around 5.2, 5.3. And if you look at them, they're going to be between, again, it depends. It changes about every 7 days or so, but you're looking at upper threes. So that's still a good amount on cash that is just sitting there. We definitely have less and less people that have cash just sitting on the sidelines doing nothing, but we still do have some people that are maybe at large institutions that don't pay anything. They still have savings accounts rates or high yield savings accounts rates that are nothing. So you still need to seize that opportunity. But again, it's you're earning interest on that money. So just be aware that you're going to have to pay ordinary income. Interest income is ordinary income. So whatever your tax rate is, that's essentially what you're going to pay on it. So if you're getting 3 to 4% on your money, you're not keeping 3 to 4%. Again, most people know that, but just be aware you're going to pay interest on that. But you don't not do it because you're paying a little bit of tax on the interest that you earn. You're still earning the income, or the interest on that. So definitely take advantage of that. High yield savings. Again, you can go to bankrate.com and you can look up high yield savings, kind of best rates. Watch out for introductory type rates. Look out for, I've seen some of the big providers out there, they'll offer it for 6 months and then they pull back the reins and they continue to lower it. So just be aware of that. But there's a lot of money market mutual funds out there that are still paying really good money, and you can have that access to that cash within a day or two. It's not a click of a button and transfer it over like it is maybe at a bank that you bank with savings accounts. but these money market funds are still paying pretty well, and you may have to wait a day or two before you get your money. But still, you got to take advantage of that money that's just sitting on the sidelines doing nothing.
Yeah, again, if you have questions about, how much cash you need to have, best places to put those conservative investments, feel free to reach out to Black Oak Asset Management. You can find all the contact info in the show description to get in touch. The one big beautiful bill, Ryan, another big headline, one that would dominate most years, and it was a pretty big story, and it changed a lot about tax planning, right? So when you look back on this, how has it impacted tax planning, the work you're doing with clients, and some of the things that people should be thinking about right now?
Yeah, and sorry, I keep swigging on my water here because I got this head cold, man. I can't
That time
shake
of
it.
year.
And I sound very nasally. So sorry for all those viewers out there. Like, what's wrong with his voice? So if you're viewing this for the first time, I don't normally talk like this. It sounds kind of funny, but yeah, the one big beautiful bill. I mean, as a nerd, as a tax planning nerd, I'm not a tax preparer, but a tax planning nerd. I was really taking interest in this. I was very curious. I did not think they were going to let the current tax code sunset, which it was supposed to do at the end of this year. So that got changed, and so we kind of know moving forward. And I think it's favorable. I mean, we can argue politically all day whether it was a good bill or a bad bill, but from my client's perspective, there's a lot of good things, especially retirees. I feel like there's the extra deductions that people over the age of 65 get. So there's some things in there that I think are favorable, especially the extension of Roth conversions. That there were some rumors that those were going to be, the loophole there was going to be tightened. There's going to be restrictions put on there, but it's still open ended. You can still do as much as you want, as much as you can afford to do, as far as paying the tax bill on it. So I do think from a planning perspective, it's very favorable. Now, there's some things that aren't quite as favorable. Some giving, you don't get, there's like a floor. There's a floor that you give over a certain amount, and then that's deductible. But the above the line deduction is more than it was. I think it was 300. Now it's 1,000 for 2026. So anyway, some good opportunities there from a planning perspective and from a tax perspective, and a small business owner like myself. I was worried that small business owners were maybe going to get taxed more, but it looks like that's still favorable as well.
Good to hear. All right, the most recent bit of news here was the record-breaking 43-day government shutdown that took place from October to November. Obviously had a big impact across the board with travel, SNAP benefits, a lot of different things were touched during that time, Ryan. And I know, again, it comes back to being prepared, right? I know you can never be prepared for what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen, but just making sure that you have things in order so that when emergencies do pop up, you can handle them.
Yeah, I mean the emergency fund. I mean that's always been an important thing, but I think even maybe a higher beefed up emergency fund's even better with things like we talked about with inflation. Obviously, this government shutdown. We have a lot of federal employees that are clients of ours, so maybe having even a higher, which seemed like a very protected, job as far as a government job, going to get a pension, and these people are still going to get this, but there's been a lot of uncertainty and a lot of layoffs when it comes to this stuff. So having a higher emergency fund for me, especially for retirees, I think is vitally important. I do think even with kids, if you had kids still at the house, you need a much more than just a 3-month emergency fund, in my humble opinion. So having these shutdowns take place has really been eye-opening for a lot of people that thought they had maybe a quote-unquote safe job from an income standpoint. Not so safe anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that kind of ties into something I know that you put together, that your federal employee book that you've helped a lot of people out with, that people have reached out and taken advantage of this. I know it's free to get your hands on, but talk about that a little bit, because I think this is a great opportunity to let people know about it that maybe have dealt with this or preparing for the next possible shutdown.
Yeah, these books have really been flying off the shelves, if you will. I mean, there's been a lot of requests from social media, but yeah, if you have any type of a federal job and you have a federal pension, I mean, this lays out your benefits that you do have, and maybe some things to think about moving forward. So all we need, go to our website. All we need is your name, address, and contact information. That way we send it out free of charge, the book, and then other supplemental materials on top of that. So yeah, glad to help people out when it comes to stuff like that amongst all this uncertainty.
Yeah, you'll find that at retireperfect.com. Also, you can go ahead and schedule a time to talk with Ryan. If your new year includes plans to maybe get in better position financially or begin your planning process, go to speakwithryan.com to do that. Again, you can find all those contact links in the show description for you. And hopefully this has been a nice little recap of 2025. Hopefully, Ryan, 2026 is maybe a little bit better. Maybe fewer headlines would be good, I think. But again, just being prepared and having a plan is always going to be the forefront.
Yeah, headlines are not going to stop. It just depends on what headlines they are. So we'll see how 2026 shakes out. But yeah, I mean, 2025 was a good year in general. Some volatility, some headlines in there, but that's always going to happen.
Always. Well, thanks for watching another episode of Perfect Game Retirement. We hope you had a great year. Looking forward to the year ahead. And thanks for being part of the show. Take care.